by the conduction, convection, or radiation. So based on this, we so just like if you have a current is constant, let's say in your system, in your device, if you maintaining the constant current supply, then the temperature will depend upon the heat dissipation and conduction of the media. The temperature will depend upon the heat dissipation. So basically, heat dissipation means it is depend upon the conductivity and conduction of the media. It mainly depend upon the density of the media, and density of media means this is a pressure. So if the pressure decrease, it means the conductivity will also decrease, because there is no, if pressure decrease means there is no surrounding to carry the heat. So if pressure decreases, it means the conductivity decreases, wire became hotter for the same current. So if there will be no source of carrying media, so that's why the wire, whatever the electrical source we have, the current source we have, so the wire will become more hotter for the same current. So for a given current, temperature of the wire directly depend upon the pressure. So you can say the current temperature of the wire, it depend upon the pressure. So this way we are correlating temperature and pressure. So we have basically two type of instruments in this category. One is Pirani gauge, another one is thermocouple gauge case. So in Pirani gauge, we have already discussed that we have basically the Wheatstone bridge kind of arrangement. Here one is basically a measuring cell, or you can say this is a Pirani gauge chamber. Another one is known as the compensating cell. So we applied the unknown pressure here, or whatever the unknown vacuum. So we have the filament that is of platinum, and it will record the voltage difference at these two ends. And through this, for that we are basically supplying some power supply. So based on this, you can find out what is the means, as we have the pressure here, based on the pressure we have the voltage, current, right? And this current will be compensated by this. So when the both will be equal, that power supply we can measure, and directly we can report how much pressure inside the system. So vacuum can be measured, and the filament temperature in this case should be less than 300 degrees centigrade. This is a platinum filament. Thermocouple gauge case, basically the similar type of arrangement we have, but here we have a resistance in series where the thermocouples are attached. So as we supply the power, we supply some power through the regulated supply, and the pressure will be the temperature, thermocouple temperature will be measured by this calibrated resistance, and we will measure the voltage generated by the resistance. So this is a vacuum compression by the thermocouple gauge. In this, basically in this case, the thermocouple attached at the middle of the each resistor will develop an EMF which is proportional to the temperature difference of the junction. So basically this EMF is proportional to the pressure on the potentiometer, which is used to measure the EMF is calibrated in terms of pressure. So basically how much EMF is generated here, that is basically based on the pressure present in the system. So this way we through the EMF we can talk about the how much pressure inside the system. Now the next we have instruments used for electronic device. So these instruments use basically the electronic device. You know the property of the electronic device, that is the electron emitted at the cathode by the thermionic emission, and this will be attracted towards the grid. Grid means this is some positive. So electron will collect or attract by the grid or positive plate, we can say. So pass through the grid towards the plate. Ions are formed by collision of the electron with the molecules present in the tube. So this is the basic properties of the electronic devices, and we have certain type of devices like hot filament ionization gauge, we have a cold cathode ionization gauge, we have radioactive ionization gauge. Hot filament ionization gauge means electron emitted at the cathode by thermionic emission attracted towards the grid, right? This is a hot filament ionization gauge. So electron will emitted by the cathode, and it will be attracted towards the grid. Ions are formed by collision of the electron with the molecules of the gas present in the tube. So by measuring how many ions are form due to the collision, and we can talk about the pressure. So positive ions are collected by the plate on the plate, and current positive ions current exist. Amount of ion current is proportional to the amount of gas present, provided the electron current is constant. So if the current is constant, so means amount of ion that is proportional to the amount of gas present. So that we can simply correlate. So how many ions are produced depending upon the how many amount of gas is present in the tube. So electron to grid is maintained by grid current and cannot use to measure above 2 micron mercury because of the probability of bringing out the element. So we can measure very low pressure, even very low pressure, 2 micron mercury pressure, HEG. It can be used in conjunction with the Pirani gauge, is used to measure the pressure above 2 micron mercury. So can also measure the absolute pressure of the inert gas like oxygen, CO2 and H2O. So basically you can see this is a schematic of this hot cathode ionization gauge, and in this we have basically the hot wire. This is basically electron emitter, and when we supply or when we heat this wire, the electron will produce or emitted by this hot wire electron emitter, and this is a grid arrangement, and depending upon the pressure inside this chamber, the ion will generate and will collect on the grid. So it will basically complete the path. So you can see this is whatever the signal, whatever the current signal it will pass, it will be pass through the amplifier, and we can measure the gauge through the gauge. So basically in this we connect to the vacuum chamber, or basically we can say this is the source of this is the basically the system which we want to measure the pressure. So we have the fine wire ion collector, so the ion will collect at this wire, and this will corresponding we can get the readings. So it can measure very pressure very low at 2 micron mercury. It can be also used with the conjunction with the Pirani gauge. Second, we have the cold cathode ionization gauge. Cold cathode means there is no heating source is required, and in this we have basically the cathode and anode plates, and they are basically the ions will generate through the cathode, and it will be moved towards the anode. So two parallel plates are cathode and anode, cylindrical anode, right? And basically we have two cathode. The rectangle one is a cathode, and the cylindrical one is anode. So we have basically from the two sources cathode, we have two sources of cathode generation, electron generation, and electron will move towards the anode plate. So high voltage is maintained between the anode or cathode. The electrodes will discharge ions. So the cathode will discharge ions, and it will reach to this. So this will complete the circle, and electron will move towards only in a line. So that's why for that some magnetic arrangement is also done. So at a low pressure, the probability of these electrons colliding with the molecules and ionizing them very less. To overcome this difficulty, the gauge is placed between the poles of the electromagnets so that the magnetic field is at the right angle of the plate. So two electrons should move towards anode, or the velocity should be high. So that's why the ionization will take place properly So that's why we maintain everything under the electromagnetic field. So electron to make towards the anode cylindrical in a helical path. So electron will generate and it will move towards the anode. Ionization molecules of the gas, even though that are very few in number. So even ionization will take place, but that is very few number, and the range of the pressure is around we can measure that is 10 to the minus 3 to 10 to the power 3 mmHg. Okay, so this is basically all working for the very low pressure. So hot cathode ionization, very low pressure. Then after we have the cold, it is even higher. Then we have a radioactive ionization gas. So radio material source placed in a airtight chamber. This basically it will emit the alpha particle that will ionize the gas particle. This is similar to the thermionic gas, and it can measure around 10 to the power minus 3 to 10 micron Hg pressure. Now the next we have the temperature measurement. Temperature measurement, basically we have the some common devices like thermometer, you know the very well, this is a glass tube, bimetallic thermometer, Bourdon tube thermometer, thermocouples, thermopiles, and resistance thermometer and pyrometer. So we will discuss these type of thermometer one by one. So bimetallic thermometer already you know. Now next we have the bimetallic thermometer. Bimetallic also you know. This is a thermocouples, you can say. Bimetallic having a different coefficient of the thermal expansion. We have a bimetallic. So basically this is a two metallic, and the metals are different. So that's why they have the different coefficient of thermal expansion. When strip is heated or cooled, different expansion or contraction occurs, cause the strip to be bent. The angular velocity is proportional to the temperature change. So you can see here, let's say we have a two metal plate, and it is at same temperature. One has the more thermal conductivity than another. Let's say it has the upper one has the low expansion coefficient, lower one is a higher expansion coefficient. So what will happen that when you heat up the high expansion coefficient, the lower one will expand more. So that's why because both are attached, so there will be band. They will band of this plate, and because of this band, we can say how much it will bend depend upon the expansion. So basically, through this way, we can measure the bending means the angular velocity. Here I mentioned the angular velocity. The angular velocity is proportional to the temperature change. Temperature change is this is proportional to the bending. So we based on the bending we can find out what is the temperature. Right. So we have basically this is the basic principle, and this is the instrument that it looks like. So we have the pointer, the sliding bearing, rotable rod, cylindrical pin, right? And we have the helical bimetal strip. So depending upon the expansion, the pointer will move, and corresponding we can get how much the temperature. Bimetallic connected pins, stem, and bimetallic connected to rod. So this bending will give you the reading, and we can directly get the temperature. For example, we have invar. Invar means we have this very important material. So you just remember this. Invar means the iridium is around 64 and nickel is 36. So a low expansion metal alloy, right? So brass is basically high expansion metal alloy, and it can range from 30 to 550 degrees centigrade. We can easily measure the temperature. So what is the disadvantage? Disadvantage is this, this is basically the spot reading. Spot reading means once you heat the system, then only at that time you can take the reading. And the stem must deep in the flow. and in the fluid. So this is a major disadvantage that you have to put the stem of this instrument inside that fluid. So means this is very means sometimes it can depend on the material property. So it can harm the instrument also. So the next we have Bourdon tube thermometer. Bourdon tube thermometer means we have basically a three type: liquid filled thermometer, gas filled thermometer, and vapor pressure thermometer. Liquid filled thermometer means thermal expansion of the liquid, pressure is spring to unwind, and movement is converted into circular movement of the level which moves on a scale, right? Calibrated in terms of temperature. So this is a liquid filled thermometer. Liquid filled thermometer. So this is an important principle. Movement is converted to the circular movement of the level which moves on a scale. So we can measure the temperature by the liquid filled thermometer. So next we have the gas filled thermometer. This is basically based on the principle of constant volume. Means this is Charles law. Charles law, and Charles law, what is Charles law? This is T1 upon P1 equal to T2 upon P2. So gas is filled at high pressure, so that increase in the pressure for each degree temperature will be more. The deflection of the Bourdon tube is converted to the circular movement of a lever. So similar to previous example, when you have high temperature, the deflection of the Bourdon tube is converted to the circular movement of a lever, right? So next we have the vapor pressure thermometer. So change in vapor pressure of the liquid with temperature. So it means we have the liquid, we have bulb. So when you heated this, the vapor pressure will produce, and depending on the vapor pressure, it will work on this link, and corresponding this, the movement of the link will take place, and we can find out the temperature reading. So this is a vapor pressure thermometer. So we have the linkage and the gearing machine, Bourdon tube. It is just like Bourdon tube, right? Pointer and scale arrangement. So this is a free end. So as it will exert the pressure, capillary tube, vapor will come through the capillary tube, and it will exert a pressure here, and corresponding we can get the reading. So we can measure the. It is very sensitive, and we can measure up to minus 40 degree to 540 degrees centigrade. And the mercury field with this 150 to 200 feet. This is a mercury field. We can fill the mercury up to this level. The next we have the thermocouple. Thermocouple basically, the change in the material resistance as a function of temperature. This is very common instrument to measure the temperature, and you know that very well. There exists another dependence of the electrical behavior of the material of the temperature that form the basis of a large percentage of the all temperature measurement. So the effect is characterized by the voltage generating sensor, in which the electromotive force EMF is produced that is proportional to the temperature. Right, so how much electromotive force will be produced? It depends upon the temperature. So we have the metals, we have the different resistance. So corresponding, we have different temperature. Such an EMF is found to be almost linear with the temperature, and vary repeatedly for a constant material. Okay, device that measure the temperature on the basis of this thermoelectric principle are called thermocouples. Right. So we have the temperature. Through temperature, the resistance will be due to different resistance of the material. We have different temperature, and corresponding we can get the temperature value. We have the thermoelectric effect. Thermoelectric effect means the basic theory of the thermocouple effect is found from a consideration of the electrical and thermal transport properties of the different materials. So thermocouples effect is found from a consideration of a electrical and thermal transport property of a different material. So this is known as the uh, thermal and electrical and thermal transport property of a different material. That's why it's known as thermoelectric effect. Okay, so in a particular, when a temperature differential is maintained across the given matter, the vibration of the atom and motion of the electron is affected so that the difference in the potential exists across the material. So we have when temperature differential is maintained, so vibration of the atom and motion of the electrons. So it will occur and the effect so that the difference in the potential exists across the material. So this potential difference is related to the fact that the electron in the hotter end of the material have more thermal energy. This is important point. The potential difference, this is basically related at the, we can say, we have electron in the hotter end of the material have more thermal energy than those in the cooler end. So, and thus the tend to drift towards the cooler end. So, electron will transfer from hotter end to the cooler end. So, drift varies from different materials at the same temperature because of the difference in the thermal conductivity. Right? So, in a circuit is closed by connecting end of to the another conductor, the current is bound to flow in the closed loop. So when the electron will transfer from hotter to colder, it depends upon the material properties or their thermal conductivity properties. We have the different current, and corresponding this current, we can find out what is the temperature. Right? The proper description of such a effect is to say that the EMF has been established in the circuit and causing the current to flow. So because of electron transfer, we have a current to flow. So pictorial representation of this effect is called Seebeck effect, in which two different metals A and B are used to close the loop with the connecting junction at temperatures. We could not close the loop with the same metal because the potential differences across each leg would be same and no net EMF would be present. So this is also a very important point. We have to make a closed loop. If we could not close the loop with the same metal because because the potential difference across the high leg would be the same and no net EMF would be present. So that's why we have to close the loop. Otherwise, there will be no EMF present. The EMF produced is proportional to the difference in the temperature between the two junctions. The theoretical treatment of this problem involves the thermal activity of the two metals. So we already know that the basic principle is similar to the thermocouples, and because of the electron transfer, the electron movement of the thermal conductivity of the material, we can find out how much current is flowing in a closed loop, and whatever the EMF generated because of this, we can find out what is the temperature. Right. The next we have, this is very important, this is an optical sensor. Optical sensor means, it is basically, you can say, some energy packets, we can define in an optical sensor, we can define the electromagnetic radiations in terms of frequency, wavelength, speed of propagation, and spectrum. All these comes under the optical sensors. Right? So we can take any parameter, and based on this, in some case we can measure the frequency, some case wavelength, some case the speed of propagation, some case the spectrum. So based on this, we can measure the temperature or temperature of some body. So define the energy of EM radiation, electromagnetic radiation, in terms of power, intensity, and the effect of divergence. So compare photoconductivity, photovolatility, and photoemissive type of photodetector. We describe the principle and structure of both total radiation and optical pyrometer. So these are basically term that will be used in an optical sensor. We distinguish incandescent atomic and laser light source by the characteristics of their light. Design the application of the optical technique to process control measurement application. Right. So basically, we have all these terminology that we use in an optical sensor device. A desirable characteristics of the sensor is that they have very negligible effect on measured environment. That is the process. They have very negligible effect. Thus, if a resistance temperature detector, it means RTD, this is a resistance temperature detector, heats up its own temperature environment, there is a less confidence that the RTD resistance truly represents the environment temperature. Right. So means if we have, in any case, let's say if we are looking at temperature by resistance measurement. So, and if a device is heating itself, so means it is not giving the true value. Instead of heating by the environment, it is heating by their own resistance. So its own temperature environment. So there is no confidence that the RTD resistance truly represents the environment temperature. So basically, when electromagnetic radiation is used to perform process variable measurement, transducer that do not affect the system measured emerges. It means transducer also play an important role when we talk about the temperature measured by the electromagnetic. Such system called the non-local or non-contact because no physical contact is made with the environment of the variable. So basically what we are doing, we are, as I have mentioned here, we just give the optical sensor. Optical sensor means we are providing some energy packets, and because of the environment present inside the system, it will heat up, and it will heat up. Based on this heat up, it will give you the temperature. So basically in this case, we are basically called this as non-local or non-contact because no physical contact is made with the environment of the variable. Non-contact characteristics measure often can be made from a distance. In process control, electromagnetic radiation in either the visible or infrared light band is frequently used to measurement applications. So basically, we have mainly two type of you can say the light range, visible or infrared light, for the measurement applications. But we have the full range of the light. The technique of such applications is called optical because such radiations is close to visible light. That's why we call this as optical source, because the radiation is almost close to the visual light. Okay, so a common example of the optical transduction is measurement of an object temperature by the emitted EM radiation, electromagnetic radiation. So we can directly measure the temperature by the emitted radiations. Another example involves radiation reflected off the surface to yield a level or displacement measurement. Surface to yield a level or displacement measurement, right? So we talk about some fundamentals of the EM radiation. So we are very if we are all familiar with the EM radiation as a visual light is all around us. So electromagnetic radiation is also familiar in other forms such as radio or TV signal or ultraviolet or infrared lights. So this is another form of electromagnetic radiations. Although much of what follows is valid for the complete range of the radiation, particularly attention to give the infrared, visible or ultraviolet, because most sensor applications are concerned with this range only. So we have radiation, infrared, ultraviolet and visible light. So because most sensors works under this category, this range. Here I given the range of some electromagnetic radiations. This is a spectrum that cover the everything for the very low frequency radio to X-ray and beyond. Here you can see very low frequency. Here in this case we have the frequency and wavelength both are represented. So you can say very low frequency, 10^3 hertz. Then we have TV radio, then microwave, infrared, visible light, that is in this range, 10^15 hertz, ultraviolet X-rays, and we have some beyond that also. So basically visible, infrared, this is the main most of the instrument based on this frequency range or this wavelength. So comparison of electromagnetic radiation emitted by the sun and the heated tungsten filament as well as the spectral sensitivity to the human eyes. You can see the diagram. Now the relative response, the tungsten is very high, 2870 degrees centigrade, and we have solar even very less, and the human eye you can say we have only this much. So this is in visual range, this is wavelength. If you see the wavelength wise, the solar has this much wavelength and tungsten has very much high wavelength. So corresponding this we can say the difference of the tungsten heated up at 2870 degrees centigrade, and what is the solar is even very low compared to the tungsten. Okay, so I will keep this continue, and now meanwhile we can start few numericals also. Here we have one diagram. This is this type of question also asked in the GATE, that which symbols used for a particular purpose. So we have the list of the most of this kind of diagram. I have just taken few of them. Generally, when the symbols are written like this, 110 Y1C, and this kind of generally you will observe in your PI diagram. So it means the lower one is represent a particular loop or particular flow path, and upper one represent the controller, or it may be some different symbolic representation of different instrument. So lower one basically it represent the particular path, particular flow area, just like this is a loop 110, right? This is a loop 110 means it is a particular flow path. This flow path they given a name, code name is 110. So everything will be counted as 110 path, and we will add or we will represent the instruments corresponding this path. Sequential indicating controller, Y represent the mathematical symbol, emit signal to the valve which control the flow rate of B. So this is basically flow rate of B. So controllers Y1B, Y1C, Y basically mathematical symbols they given. So this way they are just showing the path control of the flow rate. This is a particular diagram for the solenoid valve. it operates on an electrical signal. So this is solenoid valve. This is a symbol for the orifice meter. We have it is just a 2 line and one little upper. So this is known as the orifice meter. This is a loop and this is a FT means flow transmitter. It converts flow to the pneumatic signal, 20 to 100 megapascal. This is a flow transmitter. So flow to the pneumatic signal. So underwood of this, it means it is not shown here or it is just hidden. So it means that it removes the square root form of the signal and make it linear. So basically, just to approximate the signal from the square root to the linear, input is pneumatic and output is electrical. So we are just making this linear signal. Again, this is a flow path. This is a loop 104 and FT is a flow transmitter. Flow of A to pneumatic signal from 20 to 100 megapascal or whatever the unit is written. Right. PC, this is a pressure controller. It receives 2 electrical signal from flow. Right. The dash line can basically represent it is receiving 2 signals and it is just giving 1 signal. Okay. Transmission of the line 103 and 104 maintain a ratio of A and B in a reaction chamber. So this is a transmission line. Transmission of 103 and 104. This is a flow transmitter. The flow transmitter work is to maintain a ratio of A and B in a reaction chamber. Right? We have the FT here 103, right? So FT 103, this work is to maintain the ratio of the component. PY 104. PY basically pneumatic signal and this is IP converter. It converts standard electrical signal to the pneumatic signal. This is control valve. This is very common. It is a standard pneumatic signal and control the flow rate. PT, this is a pressure transmitter, 4 to 20 mega. This is pressure, so absolute pressure. DC, this is a computer, digital computer. You can say digital data to the pressure controller. It is used to set the set point and place in a control room. Pressure controller, this has a 2 input and 1 digital signal from computer and 1 electrical signal from the pressure transmitter. This is a motor control valve, control the flow rate of C in a chamber. This is temperature. TS is temperature safety. Sequential indicating controller. Sequential indicating controller as the previous one. Solenoid valve, control valve, right? So we have this type of different signal. We have the list of very detailed instruments. So I will try to pick up from there and I will show you in between also. So here I got some listed, so that's why I shown you. And we have a different purpose basically. One signal is just given for a particular. This is useful for this. Yeah, it contains this much information. But just like FT or PT or TS, the instruments are used for different purpose. So that purpose should be also defined, right? So that's why we have a different type of instruments in a flow sheet, and what their purpose, it is also given in a symbolic form. Just like TS, this is a temperature safety. So it is just given for some safety purpose. Okay, so now discuss one example, one problem of this your second order system where we have the two non-interacting tank. They are flowing. We have the H1 height, we have H2 height, we have resistance corresponding R1, R2, and we have the flow rate in the one tank, right? And the tank is liquid level, zone operates at a steady state when the step change is made in the flow of the tank. One, the transient response of the critically damped. Critically damped means this theta is 1, and it takes 1 minute for the level second tank to reach 50% of the total change. So time they are giving 1 minute for 50% of total change. If even by A2 is given, find R1 by R2. Calculate tau for each tank. How long it take for the level first tank reach to 90% of the total change. So you have to give the answer of these parts, and how you will deal it. Just you have to write the transfer function. So transfer function means you can say first you have to look for tank 1. For tank 1, this will be H1 by Q. It will be given by H1 by Q. You know, this is R1 upon tau S1 plus 1.
Sir, screen is raised. The screen is at chapter 20.
Okay. Just. Now this is okay. It is showing this tank example.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So we have basically the two tank. This is a non-interacting system, and in non-interacting system, basically we have a transient response, means where zeta is this critically damped, zeta equal to 1, and the time they have given taken as 1 minute when the level of the second tank reaches to 50% of the total change. If A1 by A2 is given, to find the R1 by R2 and calculate the tau for each tank. How long does it take for level to reach the first tank to reach the 90% of total change? So means you have this diagram and corresponding this diagram you can write the transfer function. So for the first tank it will be H1 by Q. H1 by Q will be given by, you know, the performance equation. It will be given by R1 upon tau 1 S plus 1. For the second tank H2 by Q, it will be R upon tau 1 S plus 1 into tau 2 S2 plus 1. So we know this kind of non-interacting system. We know the H1 by Q and H2 by Q. And if you open this, you can have this form of equation. So if we are assuming that it is given in the problem, if we have given just say unit step change, so means Q, this is 1 by S. So if we have taken the Q equal to 1 by S, the H2 will be given by this, right? Where tau, if you compare the time constant of the system, means tau will be given as tau square equal to tau 1 tau 2. So tau will be under root tau 1 by tau 1 tau 2. And zeta we know by the earlier expression. We have solved this. Zeta equal to 1, the H2 will be given by this equation. This is known, or already we have done the calculation for that, right? When t equal to 1, when t equal to 1, the tau value we can find out. When t equal to 1, the St, it is given in the question that 1 minute for level to reach the 50% of the total change. So 50% of total change means H2 will be, it is a maximum by 2, right? So what is the final change? Final means when you have to calculate H2 at t equal to infinite. When H2 value at t equal to infinite, its value is R2. Its value is R2. It comes out R2. And it is just wanting the 50% of the total change. It means this will be R2 by 2. So at R2 by 2, right, this is a H2 expression, and this is equal to H2 will be R2 by 2, right? So if you solve this, you will get the relation that 2 zeta tau equal to tau 1 plus tau 2, or you can say when zeta equal to 1, you can get the tau equal to tau 1 plus tau 2 by 2, right? Means this is a average tau. So it is coming from the calculation, it is average tau. So A1 R1, this will be equal to A2 R2, tau equal to, means the tau is average, so you can say the tau values basically correspond to A1 R1. So A1 R1 equal to A2 R2. So means you can get from this A1 by R1 by R2 equal to A2 by A1. And A1 by A2 is given as 2. So R1 by R2 will be 1 upon 2, so 0.5. So first part they were asking what is the tau value for each thing and find the R1 by R2. So R1 by R2, this is, it comes out 0.5. And tau value also you can find out. A1 R1 and A2 R2. So now you can find out what is the next question they ask, that how long does the tank level in the first tank reach 90% of the total change? So means you have to find out the time. So you know the first equation for corresponding when you substitute this tau and tau 1 tau 2 equal to tau, so that's why it will be 1 minus this is 1 minus from the 1, you can say 1 minus 0.5, 1 plus, we are substituting all the values, so it is coming out at 1 plus 1 by tau power e की power 1 by tau. It is just from here. This is 1 upon 1 plus tau 1 tau 2, both are equal, so that's why it is tau e की power 1 by tau.
सर
This equal to, yes,
सर ये H2 की जगह पे सर R2 by 2 minus I सर कैसे आ गया?
this is R2, this is as a equation 1, not I.
सर equation 1 नहीं है.
This is equation 1.
सर
It's
R2 by
like
2
here
सर कैसे आया
we
सर?
written here from 1, so this is 1. It's a number of equation 1. R2, this is S2 at t equal to infinite. Actually, it is given. This is a it take 1 minute for level in the second tank to reach the 50% of the total change. Second tank to reach 50% of the total change. So what is the total change first? Total change means S2 value at t equal to infinite.
Yes,
So
sir.
when you substitute t equal to infinite, you will get R2, right? And at t equal to infinite, R2 will be this. So now the total change is basically R2. So 50% of that, so means H2 value is R2 by 2. So we just substitute here R2 by 2, R2 1 minus the rest equation. So when you compare the term, right, it comes out to zeta tau equal to tau 1 tau 2, zeta equal to 1 already given, critically damped. So from this relation we can get the tau 1 tau 2 value. And it is almost both are same, tau 1 equal to tau 2.
Yes, sir.
So tau 1 means A1 R1 equal to A2 R2. So from the relation we can get A1 by A2 is given, this is 2. So that's why R1 by R2 will be inverse of A2 by A1. So this is 0.5. Right?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So when tau 1 equal to tau 2, your equation 1 can be write in a simple form like this. 1 minus, this equal to 1 minus, and this is 1 upon tau. This is 1 plus 1 by tau e की power tau, right? And R2 by R2 cancel out, so this will be only 0.5 here. Okay, so 1 minus 0.5, and we have this form. So from here we can get this, right? Similarly, for the first tank, if you write, you will get R1 upon tau. When you substitute this Q equal to 1 by S, so H1S equal to R1 upon S, tau S plus 1. In the time domain, we have this form of answer, right? At t equal to infinite, we have this is given in the question that what is the total time at t equal to infinite. This value will be, they are trying to find out what is the h1 value. It comes out 0.94, 0.9, right? 90% of the, this is given. How much time it will take to level the first tank to reach the 90% of the total change. 90% of the total change means, let's say 0.9. So 0.9 means when you solve this, it comes out t equal to 1.372 minute. So if you just talk about the total summarize, if you want to summarize the answer, it will be tau 1, tau 2, that is both are same, it comes up 0.956, t 90% is 1.372, R1 by R2 equal to is 0.5. So for that, you are using these two formula, right? And from there you will get directly by the calculation, you can get the answer. Here there is one comment that a small tau 1, tau 2 indicate the system gain the steady state quickly. Also R1 is very greater than R2. The second respond more slowly to change than the first tank, right? So this way we can get the tank response. Similarly, we have some more problems, so I will keep on discussing this along with the instrumentation. Okay.